Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? That's a pretty blue Dodge Ram. I like that blue. Anyways, why is this Dodge Ram in, you might ask? Or you might not. Either way, Dodge Ram is in for a radio and a backup camera. Let's take a look and see which ones he's got. So we have the EchoMaster Cam LF3, Best Kits BAA22 antenna adapter, the BK-CDK656 dash kit, a USB DMA1, an NVH2300 NEX non-CD DVD Mechaless radio, and for integration we have the RP4 CH21. We've done a video a while back where iData makes a cool USB hub replacement for these guys here in the center console. This guy right here. Now, unfortunately, since that video, we've found out that Android Auto, and to some regards Apple CarPlay, the length of the USB cable comes into play a lot, meaning they can only be a certain distance from point A to point B, or you get too much degradation and it just doesn't work. Those typically don't work. Now, what we have been using them for is USB 2, because USB 2 is typically just like charge a phone or a thumb drive or something like that, which they work pretty good for. This only has a single USB. That's why we're doing the DMA1 here. We're gonna put it where the cigarette lighter goes, because it's a nice short run from there up to the radio. Fernando, yes, how are your pancakes?
That's awesome.
Cool. Ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm gonna finish that and
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get going. First thing we want to do is go ahead and get this radio out. Typically there's two screws, one here, one here. If it's got a power outlet right here, there's a screw behind the power outlet. The cover actually just comes off, the outlet stays. And then we're gonna have to pull this bottom because he wants to put the USB right there. In the dash, we're gonna put a double DIN. This bar here, this is in the way. So we need to go ahead and cut this off, get that out of the way. Instruction manual, as always. It'll go ahead and explain how to build the kit and how to put it in the car. We have the little tabs for the pocket. I wanna go ahead and break those off. Now this kit's one of the funner ones to build. It's got these two teeth right here, tooth here, and then there's these holes on either side. All this does is snap into place. So we got the radio all mounted in, pretty easy. As always, check your gapping. Let's go ahead, get this in the car. Alright, perfect. Other than the fact that I mounted the radio upside down on the kit, rookie move, so we're good there. Let's go ahead, take this back over the bench, put the radio in the right direction. That's what I did. I actually just put it all together wrong altogether. And I made the mistake of saying this was one of the nicer, easier kits. It is, if you're paying attention. Okay, there we go. Kit's right now. Let's go ahead, screw it back in. Alright, so there we go. We got it right this time. Awesome. Let's go ahead and start on the wiring harness and also getting the USB put in where the cigarette lighter is. Now going to get one of these things out is a pain, namely because see these little squares right here? There's a little square right here. There's a little square right here. What those are is inside of this, there's these two teeth right here. And those teeth dig into here. You have to pull these teeth and push this thing through without breaking these two clips here and here, the whole thing popping out. These suck. Just go slow. It's the easiest thing to do. So there's a little groove right here that you need to just sand this down a little bit. And also I took a little notch off of here. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and added 2 wraps of 16th inch foam, and what that does is that fills in the gap because the USB DM1 is a little bit thinner than this, and so that it just doesn't fall out. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of glue, CA glue to it, so that it really locks it in place. Remember, always glue with the hard activator going down so you don't get it on here. Now we'll go ahead and snap this guy back in place. USB's in and done. Onto the wiring harness. So as always, when you open the box, the first thing you want to do is grab that instruction manual. It's important. It even has a supplement to it. Look at this, a whole nother piece. That doesn't mean it pertains to your car, so just glance over it and see if your car is any of this bold print right here, important notes and fun stuff like that. They're all right here. For us, we have the RAM. Got this guy right here. We do not have vehicle entertainments. Vehicles with factory amplifiers. In fact, the factory amplifier only accepts 2 channels. So this is going to be the same thing as the older harness. No problem there. Dodge, Ram, ProMaster, Durango, GPN. Okay, so Ram trucks, Durango's fuel saver display. Okay, all vehicle settings will be retained. However, the following settings are not adjustable once the factory radio is removed. This is important. Fuel saver display, air suspension settings, forward collision warnings, and crash mitigation. Now, if they're set up before you pull the radio out, how you like them, they will stay that way. If you want to adjust them after the fact, you have 2 options. 1, put the factory radio back in, or 2, plug this into your laptop and adjust it via that. Most of the time when we use this harness, these particular features are not on the car, or they're not going to be used. The air suspension settings. This is something, if you have this, you may not want to go with this harness. You may want to go with the iData harness. That one actually has the ability to retain those through the radio. We don't have to worry about these particular notes because our truck doesn't have those to worry about. Let's move on to the next step, which is setting the steering wheel controls. We're doing a Pioneer, so we want to adjust the dial to 7 as usual. Now, this particular truck does not have steering wheel controls either. So why are we setting the steering wheel controls? That's a great question. With this particular harness, it's actually capable of programming the up, down, right, left buttons on the steering wheel control. So if you come over here to the back of page 4, this guy right here. If your steering wheel control has these 4 buttons on them, these 4 buttons are actually programmable. So what we end up doing is the volume up and the volume down, we actually make volume up and down. We don't program left and right. The reason why are those are what take you in and out of the menu. So if you're going left, right all the time, your gauge cluster is going to be doing all kinds of strange stuff. Whereas if you just have it set on the standard look, like whatever miles per hour or generic setting, and you do up and down, the screen doesn't do anything because up and down is only for when you're actually in a menu. If you're in a menu, all you need to do is shut the radio off so that it doesn't have the volume go up and down. Most people don't use the menu systems in their car, and we feel that the inconvenience of actually just having to put the radio off is outweighed by the ability to control the volume from the steering wheel control and giving you features you didn't get from the factory. It's kind of a bonus. You can program these for anything you want. You can program volume up as push to talk. You can program volume down as answer phone and disconnect because you can do multi-function. So let's take a look at the harness. Steering wheel control, little 4-pin deal. Let's go ahead and get that plugged in so we don't lose it. Alright, so now let's go back to page 2 here on the instructions where it talks about the wiring. If you have a factory backup camera, it will retain the factory backup camera. So that's provided in the harness for you. If you don't have the factory backup camera, you can remove the wiring if you like. Alright, so we got this out. Go ahead and set this aside for right now. Now what we want to do is check out this harness here, the magic harness. It's got all the cool wires. This is what's coming out of the black plug. And we have an orange white, which is illumination we're gonna need. We have a purple white. Let's check that and see. Purple white is vehicle speed sense. So this is going to be using the older platforms. So we'll go ahead and cut that off and cap it off. Come over here and that means green is going to be reverse. Here again, we'll cut that off there. Go ahead and take the purple white we just cut off of it, and we'll go ahead and solder it on to our green. And then the last, of course, is the red white emergency brake wire. If you're using that, go ahead and attach that to the green, or you can do the same thing where you add the green onto here so that it will be green at the radio. On this one though, I would recommend leaving it red white only because you don't want to run into that same problem where you have the left speaker positive green, then you have this green. They're identical. It's terrible. Then of course it has the standard colors coming off of it. Red, and as you notice, the red does have the relay, so we're not going to have to add a relay to power up the backup camera. This is good for up to, well, that's amusing. On the instructions here, it still says it's a 1 amp output, so this must be an update to the harness that didn't make it into here. As long as you see this relay, you're golden. So the last thing we want to do to this harness to get it prepped, so the last thing we want to do to the harness to get it ready to attach to the Pioneer harness is add in the backup camera harness itself. This particular camera is a 3-part camera. It has the camera that goes in the back with a short pigtail coming off of it. Then it has a full harness that runs from front to back, and then it has another pigtail that comes off of the radio and plugs into the harness. These are one of my favorite ways of doing this. It makes it easy to service. If the camera goes bad, there's a connection. If the cable goes bad, I can replace the cable. We have the harness all prepped and ready to go. The backup camera is on. I haven't taped that in yet because it's gonna go this way. What we wanna do now is go ahead and add in our Pioneer harness. You guys have seen that a dozen times. So let's just snap to it being done. Done. We have the smart harness attached. Our steering wheel control plug is here. The backup camera, this is gonna be what the backup camera plugs into. So everything is ready to go. Let's go ahead and grab our instructions. We can take those into the car, grab the radio. Let's get this thing attached. Now when you're plugging in the camera, there's an arrow here and an arrow here. Line up the arrows and then push. For programming the steering wheel controls, make sure you pull the brain box through the bottom here, because we need to go ahead and attach the front piece back up before we can test everything. We need to be able to have access to it. Let's go ahead and start it up, put it in reverse. So now we want to go to page 4 right down here. We'll make the top button VR and we'll make the bottom button answer call and hang up. Now every time you press the button is a feature, so if you don't want that, you hit it again and it'll take you to the next feature. Do volume up, press and hold. Answer call, press and hold. Double blinks, VR. And that's it. You have to do the initial volume up. Since we don't want it to be volume up, what we've gone ahead and done is the up arrow, we do press and hold for volume up, because that takes a 3-second hold. Once you've done that, you've told this that you're getting ready to do steering wheel controls. So then we skip down to answer call, which we've made the bottom button. Press and hold will disconnect the call, and then we went back up, and a short press is VR. So now how it works is if you just hit VR, it'll go ahead and launch VR. This will now give him VR, answer and hang up. This is good. Backup camera's doing what it's supposed to do. You think anything else? No, let's go ahead and get this in. We'll pull off our little blinky. So the last thing we want to do before we let this truck go is do a software update, because there's one that just came out. Now I will say this about this update, and these radios in particular, they're really picky when it comes to the USB flash drives. We've been using the same SanDisk flash drives now for, I don't know, 4 years with total success. These radios, they don't work at all on those. We actually had to go back to some of these. These are old ones we had left over from like back in the 8000 series days. What you want to do is come in, put your radio on source off, gears, tools, screw all the way down, system information. The emergency brake has to be connected in order for this to work. Go ahead and select that. Select continue. If you get this page, you're halfway there. That's pretty good. That means it's at least recognizing your thumb drive. Select start. If it goes black and then these light back up, you're almost there. Once you get to this screen, you know it works. Until you get to this screen though, it's iffy. A couple of the thumb drives we tried, it just stayed at a black screen, sat there for 10 minutes, nothing happened. We went ahead, turned it off, pulled the thumb drive out, tried a different thumb drive, it didn't do anything to the radio. You just need to get to this screen. The new software is 8.15 at time of filming. So now it's gonna go ahead and do this. This takes about 10 minutes. Still going. So close. Almost. And we're done. Now I didn't do anything to make that screen go away. I am gonna go ahead and unplug the thumb drive now. Now after an update, this loading screen typically does take a little longer than normal. That's acceptable. So when the radio resets, the first thing that pops up is gonna be language selection again. Go ahead and click your language of choice, select OK. and then the OK screen will come up. Go ahead and press that. Now, once you're back into the regular radio, it may or may not have lost certain features. It depends on the update that actually it did. What you want to do now is go into gears again, scroll down to the system information, hit firmware, just to make sure that the actual firmware took. In this case it did. We're okay. Let's go ahead and start up the truck and make sure the backup camera still works. Go ahead and throw it reverse. All right, so this guy's up to date. This install is done. So we're gonna go ahead and get this out of here. And you know what that means? On to the next one.